Hello and welcome to the very first episode of Transforming Industries, the interview podcast focusing on industrial transformation, technology, and what M&A has to do with it. My guest today is Sebastián Trolli from Frost Sullivan.
I can affirm that the industrial technologies is, from our perspective in Frost Sullivan, a multi-trillion-dollar market. If at that point, 2018, the question was, is it a trillion-dollar market? Well, 6 years later, mainly with a lot of things that we are going to discuss, our projections in terms of industrial technologies market as a whole, not just industrial automation of software, is way above the $1 trillion for the next 5 to 7 years.
Transforming Industries.
Welcome to the very first episode of Transforming Industries. Today I'm with Sebastián Trolli from Frost Sullivan, and together we will look at the big picture of industrial transformation and industrial tech. So we will have a view on the market and the market opportunity, the latest technology trends on industrial tech, the competitive landscape and its dynamics, and for sure, finally, the role of M&A on the whole industry. Sebastián is really one of the key guys to talk to when it comes to industrial transformation, automation, and digitization. He is a research manager and global head of industrial automation and software at Frost & Sullivan. He is a top LinkedIn voice on industrial automation, speaker, and influencer on industrial tech. So enough said from me now. Let's directly jump into the discussion. A very warm welcome, Sebastián, and I'm really happy to have you here on the show.
Hello, team. Hello, everyone, to the audience. It's my pleasure to be here today. Thank you so much, team, for thinking of me to be your very first attendee in your podcast. I'm really honored to be here today. I'm excited to talk about, as you said, the latest technology trends, market trends, also the competitive landscape in what we call the industrial digital transformation, or some other calls Industry 4.0, right? Maybe we can dig deeper later into those differences, right? But sure. Again, thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here today speaking with you.
Great. Sebastián, I already introduced you with a couple of words, but I think it's starting, it's would be quite good. Just introduce yourself a little bit about you personally, your career path, and I think then in the second step, we can also then jump to Frost & Sullivan and what you're doing there.
Yeah, sure, Tim. Thanks for this opportunity, right? Okay, yes, as you say, let's start with some personal points. My name is Sebastián Trolli. I'm almost 43 years old. I'm married with Valeria, and we have a little son, Matthew, 4 years old. We live in Buenos Aires, Argentina. I'm a chemical engineer, and as you mentioned, I spent almost 17 years in the manufacturing and industrial automation industries. The first 4 years of my career, I was in manufacturing, chemical-related companies or the chemical industry, because I'm a chemical engineer, as I told you. And then I spent almost 13 years working for Honeywell, the Latin American business, first of all in the Process Solutions division, and then switched to the Advanced Solutions, which later became Connected Industrial. So okay. I started my career as a production engineer and then switched to application engineer, field service engineer, project lead engineer, technical solutions consultant, and business development. So that's, in a nutshell, I would say, some highlights, of my personal and professional career.
Okay, and actually then after all these years in manufacturing and industrial companies, what brought you going to Frost & Sullivan? So what was your key move on that?
Yeah, sure. That's a really good question, really interesting question. In fact, yes, after spending 17 years in the industry, manufacturing and industrial automation / industrial software, my main motivation was to, as I am really industrial technology enthusiast, I wanted to take my professional career one step further and having the overall look at the market, not just being part of a very important, prominent industrial vendor, industrial automation and industrial software vendor, but also the most important thing to me was, on one side, to have the broader view of the market, to have the opportunity to speak with executives, to speak with very important personalities like you, Tim, that are in different roles shaping the industrial automation, industrial software market. And on the other side, truth to be told, I always had the desire of sharing my expertise, sharing my knowledge to the community, to the global community, thanks to LinkedIn, of course, and these podcasts. And Frost Sullivan for me was the perfect fit to do so, right? Because my daily activities, my daily routine is basically analyze industrial markets, industrial technologies. So that was a perfect match for me, right? I got all the knowledge from there, apart from, of course, my own personal, reading activities. But this type of job allows me to communicate to the global community, which are the latest trends in market and industrial markets and industrial technologies, right? So that was mainly the motivation to switch. Even though I'm still involved in industrial technologies, it's a completely different world, completely different type of job.
Okay. And I mean, you already touched it a little bit. So, and I said it before, you are the global head of industrial automation and software, as I read now on LinkedIn, as an addition. Can you tell us a little bit about your, let's say, daily work? What type of clients are you serving, industry segments? And we had some pre-discussions, and it was really interesting when you told me about what is really behind the job, what you're doing, the consulting projects, and so on. So maybe you can elaborate a little bit on those topics.
Frost Sullivan is a very recognized market research and advisory firm, right? It has more than 60 years of history, of trajectory. Frost Sullivan is well known within the market intelligence and advisory landscape for having a very sharp technology focus. In fact, our business is strategized or is built around 12 different practice areas or industries, being industrial technology is one of them, right? And across those 12 different practice areas or industries, our offerings, our portfolio is comprised of market intelligence, as I mentioned, advisory services, and also brand and demand. Those are our three main offerings across the 12 different vertical markets that we cover. Frost Sullivan covers technologies like information and communication technologies, security, chemical materials and nutrition, industrial technologies, mobility, aerospace and defense. And every single practice area, every single market that we cover is organized in programs. So in my particular case, within the industrial technologies program, I'm the head of the industrial automation and software program, right? So industrial technologies practice area, and I'm the head within that practice area. I'm the head of the industrial technologies, the industrial automation and software program, right? We have a team across the world. We have analysts in Argentina, of course, North America, Germany, Canada, and India, mainly. The typical daily routine for us is on the market intelligence side, to do all our due diligence, right? Researching markets and technology trends. In particular, for the industrial automation and software program, we have a content structure, a content coverage that comprises more than 50 different technologies across the whole manufacturing and automation value chain, from the design and engineering phase till the life cycle services. And then that's on the market intelligence side. On the advisory side, what we do is engage with customers. These are bespoke engagements, one-on-one engagement with customers, where we do our market intelligence, and of course we offer them our consulting capabilities, right, on different topics such as geographic expansion, go-to-market, new product introduction, new product development, basically to help their businesses grow, right? So that's our main leitmotiv in Frost & Sullivan. And last but not least, we have Brand and Demand, which is basically a division that helps companies, right, to increase their demand generation and brand awareness in the different industries that we serve, right?
And actually, how's the mix of your clients between, let's say, manufacturing companies and, let's say, industrial IT or automation companies?
Good.
What would you say?
Yeah, we have a very broad customer base. More than 50,000 companies are currently subscribers or have, engaged in projects of one kind of another with us. Within the industrial technologies, which is really, or actually my landscape, my main expertise, we have, of course, the industrial technology vendors. Then we have, of course, end users, manufacturers. And then also we have business and financial services companies, because all those kind of companies, need, in order to make their investment decisions, right, need to know very, very well the market in terms of trends, challenges, drivers, restraints. So we provide those kind of companies, those kind of customers, our thought leadership and expertise and domain knowledge in those areas, right?
So you're also like involved in due diligence processes and so on in terms of investments into technologies and companies and these kind of things.
Yes, that's right. That's part of our advisory type of projects, right?
Yeah, and I think that was a very interesting part when we had a pre-talk, because I wasn't aware about this of your advisory projects and that this is really a key part of your work. Actually, I think everybody has like the report and research business in mind, but it was very interesting to understand that you're doing a lot of one-on-one projects with customers, right. And I think this is also what we had in the pre-discussions, like. You really have an ear on the market, right? So I think it's very interesting if we and that brings us directly it's the key word for the next topic actually, to the market perspective, because I think you have a really good overview on the market trends, market size, and I need to ask you this question because. If you read about industrial tech and industrial transformation, there is a lot of reports also from other consultancies, large consultancy firms. And you always read like the $1 trillion opportunity on industrial transformation, industrial tech. So let's elaborate a little bit on that topic. Is it really $1 trillion market? Is it even bigger? Is it smaller? Is it How would you and Frost & Sullivan rank the market or size the market actually, or the market opportunity?
Okay, well, that's a really good question and a couple of points there, right? I think, as far as I know, I think the first time I saw an article or a study, on on industrial automation or industrial technologies being the $1 trillion market was back in 2018, I think. It was a McKinsey
right, exactly.
article that I read. That was the first time I saw it. And 6 years after that article, I can say, I can affirm that the industrial technologies is, from our perspective in Frost & Sullivan, a multi-trillion-dollar market. A multi-trillion-dollar market. If at that point, 2018, the question was, is it a $1 trillion market? Well, 6 years later, mainly with a lot of things that we are going to discuss in the next few minutes, but mainly with all the technology advancements, we can certainly, and of course, bolstered or propelled by AI since early 2023, our projections in terms of industrial technologies market as a whole, not just industrial automation of software, is way above the $1 trillion for the next 5 to 7 years. So currently, we consider it is a $1 trillion market, but with promising growth perspective for the long term, right? Upcoming 5 to 7 years, right?
Okay.
So yes. And when I say sorry, Tim, sorry to interrupt. Just to clarify to the audience what I meant with industrial technologies, right? The industrial digital transformation market, right? It's not just industrial automation and industrial software, right? But also the new technologies, the hyperscalers being involved in this new industrial landscape, startups, massive number of startups, scale-ups populating the space. Also, all these technology enablers, not just AI, which is a huge hype nowadays, but a lot of technologies that we will be covering in the next few minutes. But all that set of factors make this market today a $1 trillion one.
Yeah, and what, from your perspective, are the key drivers of the market actually that let it grow in this size?
Yes, okay, that's really good. When we talk about industrial transformation, we have to go back to 2011. I think it was 2011 when the German government released the Industry 4.0 initiative, right? Even though it's an initiative that has almost 13 years now, truth is that I would say it really started to explode in a positive sense during the pandemic. The pandemic was a massive event worldwide, maybe as opposite as one may think. In the industrial technologies case, it was like a kind of a huge driver, right? Mm-hmm. If you see the different more than 50 technologies that we cover within our program, most of them since 2020, 2021, the growth rates have increased, in some cases exponentially, right? So I would say that as a society-related driver, it was the pandemic. Now, the pandemic brought a lot of other drivers, of course. For instance, we have advancements in technology, and it's not just industrial AI, okay? We have the cloud platforms, edge platforms, all the virtualization of the data centers. We have data management. Data management is a huge market nowadays. Industrial cybersecurity with all these cyber threats, cyber attacks that manufacturers are witnessing in their facilities. Additive manufacturing, which is a whole field on its own, right? Billions of dollars being invested on those markets today. So that's in terms of technological or technology advancements, right? But we have another drivers that are equally important. For instance, sustainability and decarbonization, right? In order to achieve, the 2030 and 2050 targets, right? That's a massive driver. Every single company in the industrial realm, industrial technologies realm, is pursuing, I wouldn't say innovative, but very demanding initiatives, right, on trying to reach those targets on greenhouse emissions, helping manufacturers reach those targets with, continuous developments in new technologies, being, of course, AI, industrial analytics, the most important one in those fields, right? Another big driver that we are seeing in the market is the collaborative ecosystem, right? We see a lot of partnerships among vendors and between vendors and end users, right? Those kind of partnerships, which nowadays created a kind of co-opetition ecosystem, which is co-opetition is a word that I really like because it's the sum of competition and cooperation, right? A lot of investments, a lot of partnerships, a lot of M&A deals happen, really massive M&A deals really happen in the industry in the past 2 to 3 years, over the past 2 to 3 years. We will get to that later. And of course, government-related initiatives, right? Like as it was Industry 4.0 in Germany back in 2011. Don't forget we have Make in India, Made in China 2025, Society 5.0 in Japan. Those are all initiatives that are government initiatives, that are investing lots of resources, not just in technology advancements, but also in pursuing, a better quality of life, right? Balancing sustainability with technology and a good society, right? Mm-hmm. So on an overall very broad perspective, I would say those were and are the main drivers that are, boosting these markets today, industrial technology markets.
And I think what I would add is, especially, you mentioned Japan, and I think it's also similar in Germany. We have this the aging society. shortages on workers, especially in manufacturing, right? So I think there is a need for companies to drive automation and digitization in manufacturing processes, simply because we will not have the workforce we need. And I think also in terms to stay competitive, right? Because if I compare, for example, Germany with other countries, how can we maintain competitive in manufacturing processes, comparing labor wages, if not investing in automation, right? So.
Yes, I completely agree, Tim. And well, in Germany, you have some of the largest and largest industrial automation and industrial software companies, right, worldwide, right, like Siemens, for instance, and a lot of startups, really interesting startups that are, starting to populate the market. Some of them with really disruptive technologies, and I think that in order to stay competitive, comparing to other, regions of the world, I would say that for the manufacturing world, investing in automation should be one of their top priorities, right?
Yeah, and in terms of like different markets, how do you see the adoption rate in different markets? Like if you look, for example, at Germany, Europe, or US or Asia, do you see like differences like in maturity of the markets and in growth rates? What can you say about that?
Yes, that's a really good question. Again, Tim, I'm speaking right in industrial technologies in general, right?
Sure.
Perhaps if you dive deeper into one single or two different technologies within the whole industrial technology landscape, maybe the trend is not or doesn't follow the general trend.
Sure.
I'm describing here general trends, right?
Yeah.
Yes, we see differences, geographical differences in terms of market maturity, in terms of adoption rate, and growth pace, right? Of course, the more mature markets are North America and Europe. In terms of revenue, right? If you sum all the revenue from the industrial automation, industrial software vendors, right? Those are the two biggest markets and mature markets, okay?
Yeah.
However, we have to, I was going to say to start to pay attention. Start is not the right word, but since a couple of years back, right, there are three markets that are growing at such a fast pace, which are Asia Pacific, South Asia, mainly India, and Middle East, right? Mm-hmm. Those are the three regions that are fastest growing markets or regions for the industrial technologies market right now. Even though North America and Europe have a huge installed base of industrial software companies, industrial automation companies, and even manufacturers, right, which are the end users. Yeah. These regions, right, are developing, and their governments are making huge investments, right, in on one side on industrial companies, but on the industrial software companies, but on the other side also in energy and manufacturing companies as well, right?
Yeah. And how do you see that? Like if you compare, like you said, like Europe, US, more mature versus like Asian markets, faster growing, but emerging markets. Is there I would expect actually that they are kind of even leapfrogging in terms of innovative technologies, because I think it's also kind of a burden, right, for Europe and the US. You have this installed manufacturing base. And if for example, if I take automotive industry, I think it's not that easy in ongoing processes and like machinery investments that basically are supposed to last for like 20, 30 years to interrupt processes, install new technologies. So maybe it's even easier for younger markets to kind of leapfrog to the next generation of technologies, right? Is this something you observe, that even like in Asian markets, production lines, they often greenfield, so they can easily install newer technologies than it can be done in Europe, right? For example.
Exactly. Well, the greenfield projects are the main reason why those kind of markets are growing so fast, right? And you are completely right. You're completely right. The disadvantage of a mature market is that there's a kind of inertia implicit, right, when you have to adopt, for instance, new technologies, right? So there's a lot of, also mature markets tend to be more conservative markets. So nowadays, we will talk about this later, of course, as well. It's all about flexibility. It's all about adaptability. And these regions, right? India, China, the Southeast Asia, with all the semicon industry, right, are so flexible and adaptable, right? That I can say that maybe perhaps in 10 years they will be leading the industrial technologies markets, even, surpassing the US, right? So I know this is a little bit, maybe difficult to demonstrate right now, but those are the trends that we are seeing. We see a promising future for those areas, for those regions that I have mentioned, right?
But this has also, I think, if I think about it, huge implications in terms of the companies coming to the market, right? So, I mean, what you mentioned already, like there is a lot of really interesting young companies, startup companies in Germany, but my implication for the future would be they can't only rely on their home markets, right? So if they really want to grow, they have to initially or like from the beginning also to think about how can we scale the business, how can we also grow internationally, because I think the growing markets are also outside Europe, for example. So
yes, that's right. That's a really good point. As per thanks to my job, I have the opportunity to speak with many startups within the industrial technologies landscape, and I had the chance to specifically speak with some German-based companies. And of course they, at the very early stages when they are, when the owners, create the company, and at the very early stages of the funding rounds, right? Pre-seed round, seed round. Of course, they tend to focus on local markets, okay?
Sure.
But right after they got the right amount of money, right? Typically from venture capitalists or private equity firms, right? The very first thing they start to think, there are two main objectives for them. One of those objectives is continue developing their technology, even though at that stage they have a proven product, right? They to continue adding capabilities to that initial offering, and then geographic expansion.
Yeah.
Even more than vertical expansion. Vertical expansion goes at a later stage, typically on startup scale-ups within the industrial technologies landscape. So if you talk to almost every single industrial software company, startup, scale-up, they are pursuing, open offices outside, for instance, Germany, in case of German-based companies. They open offices in the US, they open offices in Middle East, and they open offices in APAC. So trying to, gain more market share in those regions. But that's a trend that we are seeing with this kind of companies, not just in Germany and Europe, also in most part of the US as well, East Coast and West Coast.
Mm-hmm. And if we take a little bit or diving deeper into the market in terms of like the technology perspective, what is, from your perspective, what are the key technology drivers that are behind the market growth?
Technology drivers? Okay, well...
technology segments, to put it that way, like that.
No, no, but strictly speaking about technology, no, that's a really good question, Tim. Thank you for that. Yeah. Let me tell you that we have recently launched our top 15 growth opportunities report in the industrial automation market. And in that report, I wrote that report, and we analyzed the top 15 technologies that are driving growth in the market in 2024. So that's really a topic that I can be hours, explaining. Thank you for that question. Well, of course, first of all,
we can do a second part, right?
happy to do so. Happy to be part again of your podcast. No, I would say, of course, industrial AI, but not just industrial AI. AI as an enabler for other technologies, right? Because a key trend that we are seeing in the market, of course, when ChatGPT came into the market in 2023, all kind of companies, from the traditional industrial automation vendors till the smallest industrial software startups, everyone was pursuing, the opportunity to include AI features, AI functionalities within their offerings. Like a kind of, we need to, jump, and stay ahead of the curve, right? And we have to, in order to do so, we have to start adding this type of features and capabilities. But this is interesting because what we are seeing is that all those industrial AI capabilities, instead of being a feature per se, are enablers for other more, I wouldn't say complex, but more value-added capabilities, for instance, data management. If you see today, there is a huge trend of what is called industrial data ops. And if you want to go, one step further, there is a technology trend in the industrial automation industry, industrial software industry, and of course, manufacturing as the end users of these technologies, of start to incorporate, traditional IT frameworks like data operations or data management, DevOps, right, into the OT world, right? The famous IT-OT convergence. So industrial data ops is the main representation of that trend, and you can't have a really good industrial data ops, industrial data management platform without a really accurate, really state-of-the-art, best-in-class industrial AI engine. So what we are seeing, apart from industrial AI as a feature, like for instance industrial copilots, is that this is a big, huge enabler for industrial data ops, which is another massive trend. Edge computing incorporating, embedding AI capabilities within the hardware, right? We are seeing another key technology drivers, industrial cybersecurity, for instance, and also including AI capabilities to, not just to prevent, but also to anticipate to cyber attacks, right? We are also seeing massive technology trends like the use of immersive reality technologies, virtual reality, extended reality, mixed reality, to better equip the workforce, right? And transform or, shift the traditional factory floor or field service worker into what we call augmented connected worker, right? Yeah. So, and that's just to name a few, right? Of course, you have initiatives regarding software-defined automation, which is tightly related to the open automation initiatives, right? Like how to decouple hardware from software and becoming a real, complete open source environment, right? And here, something really interesting is that here is where you see companies like Intel, companies like VMware, companies like Red Hat partnering with industrial automation companies or industrial software companies, in order to bring those traditional IT and software capabilities into the OT world, right? So again, we are talking about industrial technologies in general, but I would say those are the main technology drivers that are, boosting the growth of the market today.
So what I learned is like that AI in the industrial context is even more like a horizontal technology, right? Like,
yes, of course.
Because it's involved in many other aspects as well, right?
Exactly. And I like that. I like what you say, right? AI as an horizontal technology, right? It started, when it became a completely new technology in the industry, everyone was pursuing the vertical solution, right? Now it's a horizontal technology. It touches every single other technology, right, in this realm, right? Yeah, it's completely an horizontal technology.
In terms of like use cases, what are the key use cases that you currently see in industrial AI? So I mean, like even I think since a couple of years already, you always hear predictive maintenance is like I think one of the key things. But what I think is quite interesting, because also what you said, it combines certain aspects, is predictive quality. So I think that, for example, like the German, there is a huge machine vision industry, right, in Germany. I think that had kind of a revitalization driven on AI, because you have completely new use cases in terms of inline inspection and so on. So I think there is a couple of use cases also directly in manufacturing that are emerging from AI, right?
Exactly. Yes, you're completely right. Of course, you need a platform, right, to host those applications that allow to perform those use cases. But, well, you mentioned predictive maintenance, right? Predictive maintenance is still, and more than ever, I would say, the top use case, right? It was a top use case before the AI hype, and now with AI capabilities, it has become, an even more strong use case. Then, of course, as you mentioned, you have predictive quality. Some others call it quality 4.0, which has been also increased in terms of functionalities thanks to AI. You have, for instance, supply chain optimization, and as we are talking also about the manufacturing world, I wouldn't like to be, restricted to the industrial automation or I would say phase of the whole manufacturing value chain, right? So that is why AI is so important in supply chain optimization, right? In tracking, in warehousing, demand forecasting as well. And now, if you go to the other side of the manufacturing value chain, you have the design and engineering phase, which is the very first one, where you see here, for instance, PLM functionality, PLM solutions, CAD, CAD solutions as well, computer-aided engineering, of course. AI is, has its prominent presence there with, all these generative design features or capabilities as well, right? So even in the discrete industries, the main industrial software vendors with CAD, CAM, or CAE offerings are including AI in their portfolios, right? As a main technological feature.
Yeah.
So yes, I would say generative design, quality 4.0, predictive quality, predictive maintenance, machine health also, production health, not just machine, but also predicting, in production health, predicting process capabilities, not just, machines performance. So the number of use cases is huge.
And how do you see the developments within the, let's say, classical industrial software segment? So like you have MES, you mentioned already supply chain management, PLM. So my feeling at the moment is, right, due to the whole global developments, you already mentioned it, supply chain management is becoming a huge focus in companies, but also from an investor perspective. And I think what is interesting, if you look at the industrial software market, take, for example, MES, and I know that you also recently launched an MES report, right? Exactly. So you can also say a couple of words about that. There is a lot of companies that have been founded late 80s, early 90s, and I think given all these new features and technologies, those companies themselves need to go through a massive transformation, right? Because you have all the industrial software companies, they have to move from on-premise to cloud. You have to integrate AI and AI features.
Analytics.
And in the past, they have been very monolithic and huge solutions, right, to be installed. And if you look at the new startups coming to the market, very modular, mobile-based, and so on. So I think there is also a huge transformation in those markets itself, right?
Yes, you're completely right. And you mentioned the two, I would say, the two critical words here, which is monolithic, which well describes the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. And then composable, modular, I would say virtualization and containerization as well, which describes very well 2010 and the mid and late 2010s, and of course 2020 onwards, right? And I was fortunate enough of being, working at that time in Honeywell, as I mentioned, and I witnessed that transformation from the inside. Not just from a market analyst from the market analyst perspective, but also as an employee of this one of huge industrial automation vendors, and the transformation, the business strategies, Honeywell at that time acquired, talking about M&A, right? Companies in order to, incorporate these new technological capabilities into their solutions, their offerings, their portfolio. Their entire new product development, new product introduction processes had to be redesigned. And these companies, not just Honeywell, these big industrial automation vendors are transforming and are labeling themselves not just industrial automation companies anymore or industrial software companies anymore. They want to be known as true, complete enterprise, cloud, enterprise software as a service companies. So it was a massive, massive transformation. In terms of solutions, right? Like MES, for instance, all these companies with traditional monolithic MES solutions in the 90s, and 2000s, had to start incorporating, and first of all, it was data management capabilities, then predictive analytics capabilities, and now AI capabilities. And that is why one of the trends, or one of the things that we are witnessing in the market is that, this very well designed or very well defined borders between one technology and another, right, are starting to blur. So when you talk about MES today, what are you talking about? MES as a technology itself, or as a part of a broader manufacturing operations management suite, right? Because today, I would say that MES, and this is one of the conclusions or one of the growth opportunities that we are seeing in the MES market, for instance, is that MES solutions are starting to, switch to being part of a broader manufacturing operation management suite, right? With additional capabilities other than the traditional MES capabilities, right? So, yeah, huge transformation. And that's all, that what is industrial transformation is all about, right? Incorporating not just these digital technologies to improve or to change or modify or enhance their portfolios, but also, it brings a lot of other other considerations, right? Like how, change culture in end users to embrace and adopt these technologies, new reskilling and upskilling, training programs. It's a huge revolution. It's not just embracing technology. It's like the typical, the well-known framework, PPT framework, people, processes, and technologies. Well, that is what industrial digital transformation is all about. Transforming technologies, leverage processes to empower people.
And I think you gave already a couple of keywords now in the discussion. So when we now look a little bit on the competitive landscape, right? Because what happens, why is it so dynamic? Because it's a huge market, and participants from different perspectives and from different industries are actually entering this market to take their shares, right? And like what you just described, the borders between different technologies are eroding. So these are additional aspects driving this kind of conversion of markets and changing the competition, right? So, for example, the border between industrial software, enterprise software is actually eroding, right?
Eroding, blurring.
You have the hyperscalers with regard to cloud technology entering the markets. You have manufacturing companies transforming into industrial software companies, like for example Siemens, Rockwell, all these kind of companies. How do you see actually the let's say evolution of the competitive environment in that area? What are the key trends from your perspective on that?
Oh, that's a really good one. Thanks, Tim, for that. I would say that there are two words that can or perhaps may describe in the best possible way this competitive landscape today. One is complexity. It's becoming more and more complex, even for our daily job, right? As an analyst, we have to be on top of these trends, right? And it's harder, to establish, okay, this is one market, this is another market, this is one technology, this is another technology. So complexity is one very, very important keyword here, and the other one is innovation, right? So why complexity and why innovation? Of course, innovation driven by all these, I'd like to say technological and also science-based advancements, because AI, when you talk about AI, when you talk about ML, you have a lot of physics, you have a lot of maths behind it. So those kind of advancements, bring complexity and innovation. Why complexity? As you mentioned, you have the hyperscalers, right? 10, 15, no, not 10, but maybe 15 years ago, no one in the universe would have think of having Microsoft or AWS or Google Cloud partnering with industrial software or industrial automation companies, right? Of course, they started being as an industrial as a service, provider for the industrial world or the industrial landscape. Then they switched to platform as a service, and now as software as a service with their own offerings, right? They have their own manufacturing teams within those organizations, right? Then you have the typical or traditional industrial automation and industrial software vendors, right? Honeywells of the world, Siemens of the world, Yokogawas of the world, Schneider Electric, Emerson's, right? The traditional 10 to 20 industrial automation vendors, and then you have the traditional industrial software companies like Aviva, like AspenTech, right? So now what you are seeing is even though it's complex, in every single technology, you have market fragmentation, right? If you see the overall landscape, you will notice market consolidation. I know this kind of sounds like a kind of contradictory, right? But for instance, if you go to MES industry is pretty fragmented. You have more than 50 tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 companies in the market. Of course, you have the market leaders, right? Same as PLM, for instance. If you go to industrial analytics, for instance, the industrial analytics market, you have more than 600 companies in that landscape. You see, okay, the market is hugely fragmented, but that's at a micro scale. If you see the broader scale, what you see? You see Emerson acquiring AspenTech. You see Schneider Electric acquiring Aviva. You see, for instance, manufacturers or energy companies like Saudi Aramco making huge deals with industrial software companies like Cognite or Beyond Limits. So that's when you see that if you have the macro view, you have the micro view and the macro view. The macro view, you start to see consolidation among the different actors thanks to strategic partnerships, and if you want to go to one step further, through mergers and acquisitions. And they are, believe me, I had the chance last year to go to some industry events that were held by industrial automation software companies, and in every single industrial event, the M&A and strategic partnership chapter is one of the most important ones in their keynote speakings, in their conversations. So
absolutely. And I mean, to add to that, I mean, if you look at the different players, like for manufacturing companies entering this market, I mean, what else can they do actually than acquire something, right? Because you also, in addition, have like shortages in terms of IT labor market. So organically, can you develop new solutions with no experience in software development? So I think you need to think about acquiring, right? And to add also from a industrial software perspective, what you mentioned and we discussed before, there is companies like from the 90s in MES, in PLM. Can they do on their own this transformation in terms of technology, innovating their solutions? Do they need either a financial partner or a strategic partner to do so? Because what you also see is like there is more and more large companies, as you described, right? Like the Siemenses, Honeywells, and whoever is going to the market. So as a small company, you have to think about how can I survive in this market, right? Can I do on my own? Or do I have to join forces with bigger partners? How do you see that, especially in this fragmented market segments, like you described, for example, with let's stick to the example MES. I mean, this is a huge number of companies in the market. It's a mature market on the one side, but still very fragmented. So my anticipation would be, or my prediction, that especially in those kind of market segments, we will see a lot of consolidation driven by M&A, right?
Exactly, that's right. Particularly in technologies like PLM, for instance, or MES, or even ERP, right? For instance, you have companies like Aptian, right, which is well known for their very aggressive, inorganic growth strategy, right? Acquiring almost 20 companies over the last, I would say, 5 years, right?
Yeah.
You have companies like Hexagon, for instance, also, which are another very high aggressive acquisition strategy, right, to reach inorganic growth. What I'm going to say here is that at some point, regardless if you are, how many resources do you have to invest, right? At some point, it's not just money. It will require a mentality change, a radical business strategy change. You have to overcome hurdles or challenges like, risk-averse culture within organizations. Manufacturing is traditionally a risk-averse, very conservative industry. So if you are big enough, I think that you can start, the journey. You can start, this industrial digital transformation journey. But at some point, to stay competitive, you will have to start exploring partnerships and even mergers and acquisitions, right? And that's for the big ones. For the small companies, startups, scale-ups, there are very few examples of companies that without meaningful partnerships or even being acquired or acquiring another company, they become unicorns or centaurs. Not so long ago, I learned the terminology centaur. Centaur is a company that reaches $1 million in annual recurring revenue. So there are very few companies in the market. Those are like the black swans, I would say, in the market. I'm not saying you must acquire or you must pursue a strategic partnership because you have these kind of exceptions. But as a general rule, either you are a traditional industrial automation or industrial software vendor or a startup scale-up with flexibility, adaptability, and all the capabilities that are required in today's industrial market. At the end of the day, to stay competitive, to remain competitive, and to secure and guarantee, sustainable growth year over year, you will have to explore partnerships or even acquisitions, right? That's my view, because the market is turning into something really complex. Innovation, you have to continuously innovate, right? And if you're a company that requires continuous innovation, it requires not just, again, resources in terms of money. You need time. You need to overcome cultural challenges. So maybe the best way to do that is pursuing some, inorganic growth strategies.
Yeah. Okay. So actually, we smoothly went already into the M&A section and have covered that also. So yeah, is there any questions I haven't asked actually that you have in mind and you want to share with us?
No, that I have one question for you, Tim, if you don't mind, because even though I'm market analyst, I'm not and of course I'm tracking the M&A activity in the industrial sector. I am not an M&A specialist. I don't have that background, and that's not our main area of focus. Even though it's one important one, it's not our main areas. So particularly in Germany and then worldwide, what are the main M&A trends that you are observing in the industrial landscape today?
Myself.
Yes, please.
Okay.
What are the trends that you are seeing, or LOEBIG-ADVISORS are seeing in today's industrial landscape?
What we're
right?
seeing. Okay. Actually, it's. I think we mentioned a couple of those. I think a key aspect is consolidation, right? As you mentioned, we have a lot of highly fragmented market segments, and there needs to be consolidation in terms of actually growing businesses, right? So, and driven also, like when we think about traditional industrial software segments like MES, PLM, I think there are even companies coming to that age where you think about company succession, right? So like this is actually companies that have been founded late 80s, early 90s. The founders facing the challenges to transforming their own technologies, investing in technologies, standing in front of the decision, thinking about actually, do I do that anymore? Or is it actually that I'm now at the point to exit and sell the business? And a huge thing that we really see is this kind of transformational and cross-industry transactions, right? You mentioned those before, like Siemens acquiring software companies. You have German machinery companies acquiring software companies. I think this is actually a huge trend. And if you look how manufacturing industries need to evolve over the next decade, I think that trend definitely will continue, right? Because I don't see any other option for machinery companies to develop digital business at a scale where you really have a market share in it, other than acquiring businesses. I don't see that actually, and I think also this appetite for AI. So just recently you saw several transactions where companies acquired smaller AI companies, adding to their portfolios, right? So I think that is also a trend that definitely will continue. I think the other thing is, but this would also be a podcast for itself, how successful these acquisitions are, right? Because I think one thing that many companies underestimate is actually, especially in this transformational acquisitions, how as a machinery company do I integrate the software business in order to let it grow, keep the principles of that business, and not actually putting it too much under the governance structure of how a traditional machinery company would be managed and led, right? So you see very often the headlines when something is acquired, but you very rarely see headlines when companies again deciding to exit their investments, right? But this is also reality and also happening. So I think, yeah, these are the key trends, and I think, yeah, M&A is definitely a topic that is highly relevant in that area, and yeah, so that's actually my perspective to round up the discussion on M&A especially.
No, yeah, that's really great, Tim. Thanks so much for your invaluable insights. And sorry, just one thing before I forget to mention is that we've been talking about market trends, we've been talking about technology trends, we've been talking about M&A trends, but there is another trend, I would say, which is in fact a kind of maybe, is derived from all these mega trends, which is, if you want to succeed as a machinery company, right, incorporating digital technologies, digital capabilities, for instance, right, just to give you an example, you have, at the business level, you have the new business models, right? The everything as a service, the servitization, outcome-based models, all this digital transformation in the industrial landscape, either from the vendor side or the end user manufacturer side, has impacted deeply, very deeply in their not only their go-to-market strategy, but also how to make revenue more efficiently, right? That guarantees sustainable growth. So for OEMs, machinery companies, for instance, servitization is a new business, not new, but it's a business model. It's not new because it was, created decades ago
Yeah.
by Rolls-Royce, I think. But it started in the industry, in the manufacturing industry or industrial automation industry, few years ago. That, for instance, like servitization, how to make revenue not just by selling machines, but also, making those revenue recurring year over year, remotely assisting, remotely maintaining those machines, for instance, right? So that's a huge topic that I wanted to mention in today's conversation, right? How the business models of these companies have changed over the years, right? From the 90s, hardware-based, project-based, because those companies, 19s, 2000s, a huge part of a big part of their revenues were made by hardware selling and also project selling, right? Now it's all software, it's all services. So that was a huge change that we've seen in the industry over the past 10 years, I would say. And we will continue to see, of course.
And I think it's like to have a, let's say, a final roundup on that. It's the key journey, right? When you talk about industrial transformation from hardware-driven machinery business, we see an increasing percentage of software involved into machinery, software around machinery, services around the software solutions, vertical solutions going to market. So I think this is the journey that especially the industry has to go, actually, right?
Exactly, and that's the word. It's a journey. That's the way to describe it, right? Industrial digital transformation or industrial transformation journey. Yeah. And if you don't embark into this journey, I don't think you will be able to, to stay competitive.
Okay, great. And so I think journey is a good keyword. Yes. I think we had a really interesting journey in this hour we were talking, looking at industrial transformation, coming actually from the market, from the technology perspective, looking at the competitive landscape, and then smoothly went into M&A perspective on that. So Sebastian, really thanks a lot, and I hope like the listeners found it the same inspiring like I did. It's always great to see how passionate you are about this topic. So it was really a great session together with you, and hopefully to have you back in the show.
Again, Tim and all the audience, thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be here today, a pleasure to have this fruitful and enriching discussion with you, and to share our expertise and our knowledge to the audience, to the global industrial community, which at the end of the day is, I think it's our goal, right? If we are here, we have the opportunity to be featured on a podcast. Thanks to you, of course, in this opportunity, Tim. Our main goal ultimately is, spread our knowledge, spread our word, spread our expertise, and let the industrial community grow, right? So it was an honor for me to be here. Thank you so much, Tim. And I wish you all the best with the upcoming episodes in your podcast.
Thank you very much.
And of course, I will be attending every single one of them.
That's good. Then at least I have one listener, right? No.
Yeah.
No, it was really great having you. Thank you very much, Sebastian. All the best for you, and goodbye.
All the best, Tim. Goodbye.
Transforming Industries.
All right, so that was the first episode of Transforming Industries. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did talking to Sebastian. If you liked what you heard, feel free to drop us a 5-star rating on your podcast platform, and be sure to tune in again in 2 weeks for the next episode. Until then, take care, and thank you very much for tuning in.